Hi, I'm going to be sharing a few links, and I tell you, you need to start thinking, Britain, whether you voted Brexit or not. Now, there's a few things about this Brexit deal. What is it? So this is an article from 15th of November, everything you need to know. So basically, the Withdrawal Agreement is about Britain's financial settlement and the post-Brexit right of EU citizens in the UK, British citizens on the continent, a hard border. Why has it been so hard to reach? Because there's all this trouble about customs checks and about regulations within the Union, and also the idea that Britain could be taking advantage of, for example, not fully upholding EU customs regulations, you see. But basically, what it is, and the reason why Labour's opposing it in particular, is because Britain has only agreed to, well, to respect. There's a lot of ambiguity. The protocol commits the UK not to lower the level of protection provided by common standards in listed areas. Listing areas by theme and not by directive creates some ambiguity in their precise scope. Because they want this level playing field in which, if Britain's going to leave but still be part of the benefit agreement, then they aren't going to drop things like environmental protection laws, you see. Because Britain has only offered basically to take it into account. There is no actual agreement. There is no actual agreement that, yes, we are going to uphold all the environmental protection laws and we are going to uphold the workers' rights and things like this. Because if a country is saying to the corporations, the global corporations, that look, you can come in our country, you can make as much, you can pollute the rivers, you can do what you like, we're going to have very lax rules, you can pay the workforce less than a living wage, and yeah, you don't have to give them any rights, you can have them all on 0-hour contracts, that you don't need to sort a pension out for them or give them the maternity leave or things like this. Do you see what I mean? And so then that means that then brings down, threatens to bring down the living standards of the rest of Europe, because then that becomes competitive with the European, it starts, that kind of competition starts attacking the EU itself, you see. So it's giving Britain an unfair advantage. But even though there might be lots of jobs for people in Britain, they're going to be really horrible jobs with no workers' rights, no decent pay, literally living on a level of what people on benefits used to live on. That's going to be the norm. People that were living on the living standards of people on benefits in the 90s, before the crash, the living standards of people on benefits is what the majority of British people are today living on, that same standard. By the time they've paid the huge household bills and everything, they are on that same standard of living as what people on benefits were in the up until about year 2005 or something. That is the level. Well, let's say 2010, before this set of vampire Tories came in with their austerity. And so people are now, and it will get worse. It will get worse. You see, and this is why the Labour aren't happy with this Brexit deal. If UK adopted different regulatory strategies, moving from emissions limits to tradable permits or giving manufacturers greater scope to self-certify that they'd met emissions limits, would the EU be able to argue that this constituted lower level of protection? What if the UK decides to cut red tape and reduce costs by reducing the requirements for monitoring and the frequency of public consultation? You see? You know, our environment is really at risk. Our rights are at risk. And these are things that do greatly disturb me. Because when we entered the EU, we had all these rights. We had human rights, workers' rights, environmental protection laws, okay? And obviously those have changed over time and become more well, they've become greater, wider in scope, haven't they? Because life's changed, the needs, the environmental protections have changed, haven't they? The levels of protection that is needed, and we've learnt so much more. We've learnt so much more about ecosystems and about the fragility of nature and how important it is to conserve nature as part of our duty as a human society, because these corporations, like I say, they just operate everything. You know, the whole planet's just a farm for them to make money out of. You know, whether it's rocks and or plants or people, you know, they don't care. They're just vampires because they are like a grub, basically. That is what they are. They just eat and don't think about anything else. But you see, humans aren't meant to be a grub, because we're not going to turn into a butterfly. Because we are actually destroying the very planet that we're dependent on, you see, because we're not meant to be like a grub. And we're not meant to be treated like grubs either. But that is exactly what we are. We're living in a grubby world. And it is very, very disturbing. So this is Article 50, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you the link to this so that you can read all the way through it and check it out, because it does explain certain things about why Theresa May's been holding out for this deal. That, okay, we'll pay the EU some money, but we're only going to give lip service to the rules and regulations. And it is actually a bad deal for the British people, because it means that, well, we haven't really left the EU, but what we have left is all our rights. And, you know, that was one of the problems with Labour, that Labour's had, is because this Tory government have refused to put in a clause that's going to protect workers' rights, or a clause that's going to protect human rights, or a clause that's going to protect the environment, the environmental rights. At any time, Britain can, you know, and who's going to be there to enforce it? Is the EU going to come in, oh, you're not looking after your environment, naughty Britain? What is going to happen? So, you see, leaving the EU is a very difficult thing when you're not an independent nation, when we're not independent, because we are not, okay? This government, they are a set of corporate puppets. They are a set of corporate puppets, all of them with their own money in their tax havens abroad. They're serving a global corporation. They're not serving Britain. They are traitors. They are treasonists. The global corporation. And the global corporation, they want to be able to vamp off the British workforce, use them and throw them away as they see fit. That is the way they like to operate. And the upper tiers of Britain are happy to sell us all down the river, as long as they've got their nice fat offshore accounts, and they can go and live anywhere in the world that they want. Okay? but that's not so for the British people on the ground. With our sovereignty, well, what use is sovereignty when you've got no human rights in your own country? When you're living not under the rules of the EU, but the rules of a global corporation that doesn't want to pay you a pension, doesn't want to give you sick pay, doesn't want to give you maternity pay, doesn't want to compensate you if you get injured at work, that doesn't want to pay you a living wage, that really doesn't even want to provide you with a health service or an education unless you're prepared to get yourself into debt. Now, what's even more disturbing is that once we leave the EU, and so Britain can set up this trade agreement with America for our food, so we're going to be dependent on America. Look, these are the facts. If you don't believe me, go and check it out. Do the research. If you're going to stand there and say, oh, you're being xenophobic, you're fear-mongering, I'm not. These are the facts, okay? The facts are, go and look through my previous videos for the links. The facts are that America has offered to provide our food, so we buy our food from America. It is food that's banned in Europe because it's growth hormone injected beef, chlorinated chicken, Monsanto pesticide laden veg, fruit and veg, okay? And never mind the stuff that's in the water that it's all grown with as well. So, so America's happy to set up this trade deal as long as also we allow American health insurance companies to take over running our NHS. And also the food manufacturers, food producers in America have asked Trump to demand that Britain drops all the food, health and safety regulations that are applied by the EU. You see? So if Britain drops them, and then suppose Britain, say, gets rid of Theresa May, and let's say they elect Corbyn. So what's America's going to do? You know, the American president. Suppose Trump gets re-elected in 2020, which, you know, the way that guy is and the levels of crime that those people get up to and the way they've already controlled the elections, he very well could get in. Well, suppose he decides to put sanctions against Britain.
Washington's ambassador to Berlin has issued a stark warning to German companies over a controversial pipeline that would supply Russian gas to Germany while bypassing Eastern European countries. Richard Grinnell reportedly wrote to several companies involved in the construction of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, reminding them of U.S. sanctions on the Russian energy sector. Grinnell also criticized the project on social media. The U.S. has long opposed Nord Stream, saying it undermines European security.
So there you go. Okay, Germany and Russia are doing a gas trade with each other, running a pipeline, and America is threatening to sanction Germany because they're trading with Russia. We need to think very carefully, because I am not happy. I am not happy about the thought of being owned by America. I'm sorry, no. Look, Brexit, you want Britain independent, that's fine. Grow your own food, Britain. Have your own factories. But we haven't. We are not the independent nation that we were when we entered the EU, are we? We're not. We haven't got the steel factories anymore. We don't produce the things that we need ourselves here anymore. That is why a nation like Venezuela has suffered so much from sanctions, because, you know, a lot of things they don't actually produce in their own country, and they are dependent on buying them largely through America and the West. And America's issued these sanctions, and any country that then breaks them sanctions, then they get sanctioned against. So nobody wants the sanctions. But look, They're threatening to... Sorry, look, no. At least in the European Union, what can America really sanction? You know, they can say, all right, we're not trading. But if we're part of the EU, all right, we might not be able to get goods from America because they put this sanction against us. Is every country going to honour that sanction? But suppose we are totally dependent on America for our medicines and food, our healthcare and food. Imagine if you've got American health insurance companies running the NHS and suddenly there's sanctions on us, on Britain, because America doesn't like the Prime Minister we've elected. You know, what's going down in Venezuela could very, very easily be Britain. And it's like, oh yeah, you're going to suffer, there's going to be hell, you're going to have violence on your streets, you're going to be really struggling to even buy the basics, you're going to suffer massive inflation. Why? Because America doesn't like your government. And until you get a government that America likes, this horror's never going to end. And that's basically what's going on in Venezuela now. Is that people get driven to the point where they just, all right, anything to make this pain stop. Let's have Guaido. We've had enough. You know, that's why they do it, to break you, to break people. And that's what they're trying to do to the people of Venezuela, is to break them. That's what they've been doing to Cuba for years. But the people of Cuba know it. They know it. They know that the poverty that they've had to suffer has been directly because America wants to break them. They know what they're up against. And it is serious, you know. This is serious. That's why I'm saying let's have a second referendum, because really would people have voted Brexit if they'd really known that our environment was going to be at risk? And I'm talking like real risk. I tell you, these Tories were even arguing in the EU that they can get, you know, that they don't want the legislation on animal welfare within the livestock industry. They actually stated that animals don't feel pain. That's what they stated. Okay, animals don't feel pain. They treat us like animals as well. They do want to scrap our human rights. They do want to sell us out to America. They do want to hand full power over the running of our nation, the provision of our food, and so many other things, services from America. Look at the way America looks after its own people. Look what it does to its own people. Look at its police force. Is American corporations going to be running our police force as well? Look, don't talk to me about sovereignty. I don't want sovereignty if I've got no human rights. I don't want sovereignty. Okay, sovereignty is meaningless to me if I've got no human rights. If I am beholden to a nation as evil as America presently is, and I'm not talking about the American people, I'm talking about the powers that are governing America, the powers presently governing Britain, they are evil. They are actually more evil than anyone, any part of the EU Parliament. They're more evil because they can't even provide a basic level of justice to our children. They don't want to uphold the EU environmental protection laws. They don't want to uphold health and safety laws. Is that being dictated to by Brussels because we're being protected from the kind of shit that American people, their government, is happily prepared to feed them? Because they aren't prepared to uphold the same levels of protection and standards as the EU. So what? That's being dictated to, is it? Being forced to have safe, healthy food. That's being dictated to, being forced to have human rights and workers' rights. And we're putting ourselves at risk. Look, that's why I'm saying a second referendum, it isn't a betrayal of the British people to let us have a second referendum. It is a betrayal of the British people. The very fact that people were not fully informed about the consequences of leaving the EU. We were not fully informed about the dangers that we were going to be facing as a nation of people, of citizens, of losing our jobs, of losing freedom of movement, of the pound literally dropping by half. And what does that mean if the pound drops to half its present value? Everybody's wages is halved. Is the food going to be cheaper from America? No, because we're going to have to be paying tariffs on it. And we're a small nation. We're not taking food in a huge big market like Europe where we can get it subsidised, where we get our medicine subsidised. You people haven't thought about it. You are literally children packing your bag saying, I'm leaving home. Because you don't understand the real world that you're living in. You're living in this fantasy of ancient Britain and the so-called Magna Carta that doesn't exist for us. The Magna Carta only exists for central London, the city of London. This is what Brexit is about, is them keeping their independence as a state within the state of Britain. And they were about to lose it, because the laws of the EU apply to every part of Britain. Okay, London City cannot claim, oh no, we live outside those regulations. We're not going to adopt EU policy on offshore banking. You see, because the EU was starting to regulate, starting to regulate these offshore banks that London thrives on, the City of London thrives on it. And that's why they want to keep their sovereignty. Sovereignty is for them. That's why the Zionists that control the whole of the world's money supply are backing Brexit, are backing the EDL and Britain First. You see them there with the Union Jacks and the Zionist flags. You know, and I've got nothing against Israel, but I've got a lot to say about the people who call themselves that Zionists. And they're not just Jews either, are they? Let's face it. Tommy Robinson's a Zionist. David Cameron's a Zionist. Theresa May's a Zionist. Our Queen is a Zionist. Are they Jews? You know, the hatred has to stop. The xenophobia, you know, it's like I still feel upset. It still upsets me to witness people marching Britain First, EDL, no Sharia law, no more mosques. It's like, I'm sorry, British citizens, sick and disabled, have been driven to suicide. They've been left destitute. 120,000 people are dead through austerity, and all you people can do is marching about with your flags about Sharia law, like as if Sharia law is ever going to be coming into Britain. Most of the Muslims, in fact the vast majority of Muslims in Britain, they don't want no Sharia law. They flee from countries that impose such draconian, antiquated laws. It's about people that can't accept reality. And you know what happens to people who can't accept reality? That you do end up smashing straight into a brick wall because you've refused to accept that that fucking wall is there. No, it's not a wall. It's not a wall. It's my sovereignty. And what are you going to do when you hit that fucking wall? I tell you, you people who've been threatening civil war in Britain if you don't get your hard fucking Brexit, if you do get your hard Brexit, you will have to barricade yourselves into your homes because you are outnumbered at least 20-1 when it comes to the Leave vote now. Because a lot of people have changed their mind now, they've realised. Because they just didn't know. And you are outnumbered. And these people will be furious. They will be furious. When they can't feed their children. When they can't get their medicines. When they have to witness their loved ones going without their pain meds. Yeah, I tell you, you do not know. Because there's nothing like righteous wrath. The wrath of these Brexiteers wanting their sovereignty. That's all a pipe dream. It's all on the hot air of xenophobia and letting off the testosterone anger, angst. Okay? It's hollow. It's hollow. You ain't seen nothing like the wrath of righteously angry people who've been threatened to the extent Parliament saying, oh, we don't have a referendum because, you know, these people are threatening civil war. Fucking bring it on. Bring it on. If you fuckers are prepared to fight for the right of corporations, American corporations, to run our country, to fucking hold us at risk of fucking sanctions and feed us shite and deny all our human rights, fucking bring it on. Let's fight it out here and now. Because it seems to me the fucking Nazis have landed in Britain. And they're supporting the removal of our environmental protection laws, removal of our workers' rights, removal of our human rights. That is what you're all fucking supporting. And we know at the core of the EDL is funded by the Zionists. As I say, who are not all Jews. So, I'm not being anti-Semitic. Because, let's face it, Cameron is not a Jew, is he? But he is a Zionist. Tommy Robinson is not a Jew, is he? But he is a Zionist. So, you've got a lot of things to think about, Britain. I tell you, the cloven hoof is well and truly in the door, and it is time for us to slam it shut. We want another referendum. We want to end this Brexit madness and be sure of our future. Because I tell you, you think that the uncertainty hanging over Brexit is one thing. Wait till you get the fucking uncertainty of all these pissing trade deals and the shit that's going to be in our shops and the prices, the rises in prices. I tell you, people, it's going to be bad, bad, bad all the way fucking down. I'm sorry for swearing, but what can I say? I have got a right to swear. I have got a right to swear because I am being sworn at. I am, as a human being in my own country, being told to fuck off. Okay? Fuck off. We're going to listen to the xenophobes. We're going to listen to Tommy Robinson. We're going to listen to fucking Nigel Farage. We're going to listen to Theresa May. Okay? Or else we're going to listen to Theresa May, innit? We're either going to listen to Nigel Farage or we're going to listen to Theresa May. But either way, it amounts to the same fucking thing. It's the hard Brexit or the soft Brexit. Who does the soft Brexit protect? It don't protect us, it protects the City of London. And they've got their set of thugs, haven't they? All threatening civil war. We want our hard Brexit. We want sovereignty. Sovereignty. Sovereignty from what? You can't even grow your own fucking food. Honestly, please, people, get informed. As I say, I'm going to leave you all these links. Please, please think about it. We need to think about the children, their future, because they've got no future here. I tell you, you know what the future is? A factory prison.